2.5 million voters live in the northeastern Cumbria, and in just over a week's time they'll help decide who forms the next government. But have the political parties got the answers to the problems facing our region?
The North East is the only area in the UK outside London to export more than it imports. Yet despite some economic success and a rise in private sector jobs, we still have the highest unemployment in the country.
My grandson's applied for numerous jobs but had no luck.
Yeah, they say they've created jobs, but who wants a 0-hour contract?
Hardly any jobs were advertised during the recession, but more and more now, a couple of pages now, and that says to me that things are more hopeful.
5 years of austerity have seen cuts in the public sector. Jobs and services have been lost. But has the pain been shared out fairly?
The bedroom tax mainly, that struggles a lot because I've got 2 children.
Some people won't like it, but you can't go on spending.
Spending on the NHS is at record levels and more patients than ever are being treated. But from West Cumbria to Hartlepool, there have been protests as services come under intense pressure.
We've had to use the walk-in centre quite a bit lately because there hasn't been much room in the doctors.
I've gotten appointments when I've needed one.
People don't realise how good it is in this country.
I think it's worse, definitely. I mean, even trying to get a doctor's appointment.
In the next 40 minutes, a panel of candidates will face some tough questioning from voters. Will they be convinced by the answers they get? Welcome to Gateshead College, our venue for election 2015, a BBC Look North special.
Good evening. In just over a week's time, the polling stations will be open and the process of electing 39 MPs to represent us here in the northeastern Cumbria will be underway. With us tonight, candidates from 5 parties, the Conservatives, Labour, Liberal Democrats, UKIP and the Green Party. Richard Moss, our political editor, is here too.
Yes, Carol, I've got some facts and figures which will hopefully shed some light on some of the subjects we'll discuss tonight.
OK. And an audience of voters poised to grill our candidates on some of the key issues facing our region: the economy, the NHS, immigration and welfare. So, best thing to do right now is to start off with our first question tonight. And it comes from Michael Abernett from Middlesbrough. Michael.
Hi, I went to university and got a degree, but I found myself unemployed for almost 2 years. What would you do to help the 100,000 people here in the North East who still don't have a job?
I think we'll throw this one to Guy Opperman, Conservatives, Hexham. What can you do? 100,000 people need a job.
Well, I think the North is changing. Since 2010, unemployment is down. We have doubled apprenticeships. There are a lot of tech startups. Only last year, the North East saw 300 new tech startups, second only to London. We've created 27,000 new businesses. We need to lower the taxes for those businesses so they create more jobs. And also, I massively want to support the apprenticeship regime because we've doubled the number of apprenticeships. I'm the first MP to hire, train and then retain an apprentice. Her name is Jade, she's from Prudhoe. She's joined me in 2010. She's still with me to this day. I believe that if all of the businesses out there took on an apprentice, we should make a massive difference to the local employment scene. There is genuine change happening. I can't comment on the specific case, but there is genuine change and better days do lie ahead.
Julie Elliott from Labour. You support apprenticeships as well, but there is concern about the quality of jobs being created.
We absolutely do support apprenticeships, but we support real apprenticeships, gold standard apprenticeships, at least 2 years, which lead to at least level 3 qualifications and beyond. What we don't believe in is the in-work training that this government have created that is tagged as apprenticeships, because that's not telling the truth. But we also have plans to get real jobs with decent rates of pay. We want our young people to have the skills that they need to take advantage of the opportunities that are out there in offshore wind and other engineering type employment that is coming our way.
OK, Philip Broughton from UKIP. How do we solve this employment problem?
Yes, I think we've got to give people more options. You know, Tony Blair, when he came in 1997, wanted to get 50% of young people to university. I think we've got to give them more options than just university. And we're talking about more apprenticeships. We've got to cut the tuition fees as well on medicine, on engineering, on science and maths to really encourage young people to get in and actually get on those sort of subjects as well. And we're saying no tax on the minimum wage. We would actually raise that tax threshold to £13,000 to encourage people to get into work and to make sure that we really help the people who are struggling at the bottom.
OK, thank you very much, our panel. For now, let's pause there for a moment and hear from our political editor, Richard Moss. Richard, governments always want to end up with lower unemployment at the end of their term of office. Has it happened here?
Well, on the face of it, Carol, yes, it has, because we heard some of the figures earlier. May 2010, when David Cameron entered Downing Street, 121,000 people were out of work in the North East, or 9.3% of the workforce. April 2015, Michael mentioned the figure, 100,000 now, 7.7%, but that still is the highest rate in the UK. But one thing the coalition also wanted to do was rebalance the economy, create private sector jobs to replace those lost in the public sector. How have they done? Well, since June 2010, although the number employed in the North East public sector is down by 35,000, the number working in the private sector has gone up by more than that, 56,000. But of course, as we've always started having, there's a debate about the quality of jobs. And over that period, although there's been an increase in full-time employment, there also has been a rise, small one, in temporary employment.
OK, well, let's turn to Helen Flynn now from the Liberal Democrats. Helen, you have quite a bold promise to double the number of businesses creating apprenticeships. Is that the answer?
Well, I think that is what we have to do, because we need higher quality apprenticeships. But I think the question from our chap in the audience here was about the fact that he's finished university and he can't get a job. And I think that there's lots of people in that situation, and I've seen that. So one thing that we've been doing is developing an industrial strategy, and I feel that's what we need. We need to know very clearly where we can get skills, where we can fill skills gaps, and make sure that we have a joined up approach to how we do create jobs. And Vince Cable's been leading on this at the Department for Biz. And wouldn't it be wonderful if we had another 5 years there to really consolidate that work?
OK, Jill Perry from the Green Party, what's your plan?
Well, nationwide we have a plan to create 1 million well-paid, rewarding jobs in sustainable industries, in energy efficiency, in public transport, in public services, in sustainable social housing. Because one thing that none of the other parties are talking about is climate change. So our jobs would actually tackle climate change and provide well-paid jobs that pay the living wage and are not on 0 hours contracts. We would ban 0 hours contracts.
OK, I just want to throw it open for now. We will have time to return to this. Throw it open to the audience for now. Employers in the audience, if I can ask you, what's your experience of trying to take on people, finding people, the right people for the jobs that you have, maybe? If we can find you in the front row there.
I think the panel talked about growth in the region. And it has been reported that the region has created the most new businesses out of the whole of the UK. It's all well and good saying that we're going to ban 0 hour contracts or give more payout, but that burden is sat with businesses. Now, businesses create the taxes that pay for all the public services. My concern is that there is a skill gap out there. We are taking on people, we are training those people, but the more burden you put on business, the less likely we are to come out of this recession. And I think some of the panel feel that we're already out of the recession. We've not. It's been a hard slog for the last 3 years for businesses to get to the position that we're at.
Do you think banning 0 hours contracts is a mistake?
Well, there's a lot of talk about 0 hour contracts. I don't employ anybody on a 0 hour contracts, and I'm sure those employers that want to take on people can take on people. I don't really see it as it may be the first step to get into employment to be sat on those 0 hour contracts. But really, at the end of the day, it's about getting a skilled workforce, and that skilled workforce can only happen when you've got businesses hiring.
Julie Elliott from Labour?
I wouldn't disagree that the only way you get people into work is for businesses to hire, but we want to ban exploitative 0 hours contracts. We are saying if people are working regular hours for 12 weeks or more, then they should be entitled to a contract that actually reflects the hours they work. if you're working as a bank nurse or whatever and it's an occasional extra shift, that's where they should be used. But also, you're saying it's a burden on businesses paying a decent rate of pay. Actually, the burden under this government is on the taxpayer, because the level of in-work benefits that are being paid to people, because of the appalling wages that are being paid to people by bad employers, that burden goes on everybody, and that isn't good for the economy. People need to be earning enough money to live on, and good employers pay enough money for people to live on.
Our audience. Mr. Debar at the back, our audience, do you have an experience of this?
I think we need to differentiate 0 hours contract. There are two types of 0 hours contract. I was on 0 hours contract after I retired because they needed somebody to work. I knew that I was going to work week after week for next 6 months. There's another type of 0 hours contract. People doesn't know whether they're going to work next week or not. I think you as a politician need to concentrate on that type of 0 hour contract.
If I can just stay with the audience for a moment, how concerned are we about minimum wage here in this region? Gentlemen. In the third row, gentleman in the white T-shirt, yes?
Hi, yeah, I have a business, and minimum wage is it's a great aspiration, but if you've got a business, if your clients won't pay enough for your product, you simply can't pay any more to your staff. And we actually don't have anyone on minimum wage. They're all above minimum wage. But I take exception with what the lady in red was just saying. It's sort of, it kind of demonises people like me who run a business. We feel we're the good guys. We put our houses on the line. We take mortgages out to support our businesses when the times aren't good. And you guys, you politicians, just think we're like a milk cow to pay for all of your plans. And I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. If I go bust, I've got a staff of 30. 3 years ago I only had 6. And all the reductions in business taxes and the increase in the economy, we've grown it in 3 years, and the business is rocking, and I'm really happy with that. But I think you chaps down there need to understand how we think, and I don't think many of you do.
We just very briefly, because we need to move on.
I think there's a few things. Business is absolutely key. That's how we're going to create employment. We've got to cut the business rates, which will get investment, shops and jobs to town centres. And that's why we're saying it's got to be a 20% business rate cut. We've also got to make sure the big businesses at the top pay their fair share of tax. And that's why we want to turnover tax.
Got some bullet points in there.
To stop tax avoidance.
Can I just very quickly?
Yes.
I used to run my own business. I set my own business in 1999, so I absolutely understand what you're saying. And I did employ my employees flexibly. In the right hands, 0 hour contracts are brilliant because they suit both parties. The focus should be on cutting out the exploitative 0 hours contracts, which we can do, and Vince Cable's been making progress on this at Department for Biz. But it's wrong to simply throw the baby out with the bathwater.